Hi everyone, this video is part 5 of data visualization. So let's see the agenda of today's lecture. We will learn about line graphs today, and we will do it by learning some theory and doing some practical work. Let's do it. So what is actually a line graph? A line graph is a chart that is used to display information in the form of a series of data points. It uses points or lines, plotting various points on their x and y coordinates, then connecting them with a line from start to finish is how line graphs are created. The graph shows various values since it might increase and decrease depending on the relevant variable. Line graphs are frequently used to illustrate the relationship between two continuous variables, one on the y-axis and the other on the x-axis, and how it varies. The x variable frequently denotes time, but it can also denote any other continuous number, for example, the amount of drug administered to experimental subjects. Just like bar graphs, there are exceptions. It is also possible to utilize line graphs with a discrete variable as the x-axis. When the variable is ordered, such as little, medium, or big, this is appropriate. But when the variable is unordered, such as cow, goose, or pig, it's not. So, how to make a line graph? The line graph may be produced in one of the two methods. Let's look at the first. The first method is by using the plot method, which is the built-in R function. The next one is by using the ggplot2 package. The syntax for the first one is as follows. Just use the plot keyword, pass the variable, type, and some parameters. So let's move to our studio to see how it works. Well, first of all, let's say I create a variable with the name of line_var, and inside this variable, I pass some random values, such as now here below, I will use the keyword of plot, and I will say plot the line_var variable, and here I pass the parameter of type equals to, and I say O. Let's run it. So you can see your line graph here. There are points such as 23, and the next point is at 45, just like you mentioned here. And these are the next points. There were 6 values in total. That is why you see the 6 points on your line graph. Now you can also change the parameter here. You can say that the type should be L, and you can see that now there are no points. But this time, it's quite hard to observe with your naked eye that where is actually your value pointing. So it's better to use the type equals to O. One can also pass some other parameters, such as I say col equals to red, which represents the color of the line. I say main equals to line graph, and I say xlab equals to, and I say days, and I say ylab equals to profit. Now let's run it. So that is how you can customize your line graph. Now one can also plot one or more lines in their line graph. Let's see how. Now here, for instance, I create one more variable, and I also pass some random values in it, such as And here, first of all, I say that plot line var type equals to O and call equals to red. And here I use the keyword of lines and I pass my second variable line vol 2 and I say type equals to O and color equals to green. Let's run it. This is how actually you can plot more lines in your line graph. Now let's get back to slides. The second method for constructing elegant line graphs is ggplot2. ggplot function and geom_line should be used, and you should specify the variables you want to map to x and y. The syntax is below. Just use the geom_line keyword, pass the first variable, second variable, and some parameters. Now let's do some practical work in our studio. Well, now first of all, I will load the library of ggplot2 package. And then here, I will load a dataset of economics, which is a built-in dataset in our studio. All right, so you can see a column of date here that contains some years, months, and date, and some other columns as well. Now, for instance, I want to see a line graph of date versus unemployed. So let's do it. I will first of all make a variable of line graph, and inside that variable, I will use the function of ggplot, and here I will pass the data frame economics. All right, and I will use the static function. I will say take the date on x-axis and unemployed on y-axis, and in the last I use the geom function of geom_line. All right, we are good to go. So let's say line graph. Now you can see a beautiful line graph here with the help of ggplot2 package. You can see your date on x-axis and unemployed on y-axis. Now I can make this same plot look more interesting by adding another geom of, let's say, geom points, so that I see the points in my observation. Now you can see different observations that are represented as points. But this is not suitable for a big data set. Like when you have a lot of observations, you don't need to use the points. You can simply understand what's happening by just looking at the line graph. Well, this time I load one more built-in dataset with the name of economics long. You can see the date column here, and you have a column of variable and value and so on. So this time I create a new line graph with the name of line graph 2, and I pass the dataset of economics long, take date on x-axis and y equals to value. All right, let's say line graph 2. Now let's make it more interesting by passing one more parameter of, let's say, variable. You can see a beautiful line graph here according to the different variables. Unemployed is being shown by pink color and PCE is shown by orange color, which you can see here that with the passage of time, the value is increasing. One can also say something different by using a different parameter instead of color. So I will say this time line type. Let's run it. Now you can see here that the lines have been changed according to their variable types. PC is being shown by a straight line and unemployed is being shown by a dotted line. So that is how you can use different parameters. Now, if you wish to change your appearance further, I will say line graph 4, and in the geom line function, I will pass another function of arrow. I will say arrow equals to. In this parameter, I will use the function of arrow, and I say angle equals to 15 and ends equals to both and type equals to closed. Let's run it. So this time you can see errors on both of the sides, one at the starting point and one at the closing point. Now let's do another interesting thing. I'll say read the BOD dataset, and this time I create another line graph with the name of line graph 5. All right, I pass the dataset BOD. All right, and I say take time on x-axis and demand on y-axis, and after the geom line, I use the parameter of geom point, which will make the points on my line, and the points should have the size of 2, and the shape should be circles. So I'm using 21, and fill equals to, let's say, red. So you can see a beautiful line graph here. The circles are red, the shape is circle, and that's it. Now what about using facet wrap? Let's see how it works with the line graphs. I'll say line graph 6, and here I say line graph 6 plus facet wrap, and I say take variable and scales equals to free y. So you can see a beautiful output here. Y values are on the y-axis and date is on the x-axis, and you can see the values according to different variables. Now there is a positive correlation between date and these 4 variables of PCE, POP, unemployed, and unemployed. But with the p-saved variable, you can see that the value is decreasing as the year is increasing. So this is a negative correlation. Anyway, let's move back to slides. So this is the end of today's lecture. I have some homework for you. This is the link of the dataset, and these are some tasks for you. Use the line graphs with both of the methods and write down the insights you have found after making a line graph. Now good luck, see you next time.